So I want to talk to you guys about something that's happening in the AI world, especially on my side of Twitter. If you guys are fans of Dorquesh, you probably know what I'm talking about here, but there's a strange contradiction in AI right now. On one hand, you have models that can write poetry, pass the bar exam, generate functional code. On the other hand, if you actually try to use these models for real work, you run into something I'd call frustrating. They don't get better. Um, they don't remember your preferences. They make the same mistakes over and over again. I've been trying to use LLMs in production for a while now. I own a few companies that do certain LLM task automation for vertical businesses. And the experience is, well, it's fine, but it's maybe like a 5 out of 10. Not because the models are stupid or something. They're in some ways remarkably capable, um, but because they're static, every time I start a new session, I'm starting from zero. So today I really want to explore that more of why are we going to start from zero every time for the next 30 years. So I think this deserves more attention. There's some jokes on X that Dorquesh's podcast, since he's preaching this a lot, that he just needs to rename his podcast to Continual Learning, which is pretty funny. But the argument really is like this. The short-term outlook for AI is actually moderately bearish, not because the technology is bad, it's because it can't learn. And the long-term outlook is explosively bullish, but only once we solve that problem. I've been circling Twitter, and I found this image a while back, but it shows a good illustration of what we're currently at with AGI and AI in general. So imagine the circle is the task of a human job and what the model can do of the task of a human job. Well, as the AI gets smarter, it's good in certain domains. That's why you see it jagged. So say this point right here is coding. The ones that aren't really filled in here, those probably take tacit knowledge that the model can't train on yet. So we need the continual learning to reinforce that behavior of, oh yeah, a human does this, or maybe even something we don't even comprehend yet. So as it gets larger and larger, the splat, let's say, call this the jagged intelligence, is wider. And then it's able to solve more human tasks. And then we reach AGI, so it can solve all of our problems. I wanted to show you guys this too before I get into the analysis, because I think it's really, really important to visualize something like this. Here is how every major language model gets built: pre-training on trillions of tokens, post-training for alignment, and then you freeze it. The weights get locked. The model ships to millions of users and learns absolutely nothing from any of them. Every conversation, the model reboots to factory settings. Compare that to a human employee who makes a mistake on day one, gets corrected, and adjusts permanently. That is a physical reconfiguration of synaptic connections. Current LLMs cannot do this. The industry workaround is in-context learning, which is just shoving everything into the prompt. But this is attention, not retention. Close the session, it is gone. And you are paying inference costs to simulate what should be a free memory lookup. There is also the lost in the middle problem. As context fills up, the model's ability to attend to specific details degrades. Dorquesh uses what I call the immigrant analogy. A skilled immigrant arrives in a new country knowing nothing. Yet they integrate almost immediately. They adapt to the economy. The economy does not restructure itself for them. If AI were truly intelligent, it would function the same way. The fact that it requires pristine data pipelines and constant prompt engineering is evidence of a missing capability. You guessed it, continual learning. This matters because of the O-ring theory. In more complex workflows, reliabilities multiply. If an AI is 99% accurate at drafting text, but 80% accurate at remembering context, the entire chain fails. A 5-step process at 90% per step gives you 59% success. 10 steps, 35%. This is the co-pilot trap. A worker who is brilliant 90% of the time and wrong 10% of the time is often negative value. The human stays in the loop as error checker. Artificial intelligence assists but never fully replaces labor costs. The three approaches are bridging the gap. One method is called behavioral cloning record, which is just a fancy word for thousands of human experts performing tasks. Train the model to mimic them. Works until the environment changes. A pop-up appears that was not in the training data, and the agent breaks. It learned to mimic actions, not understand causality. Another is mid-training, which means running the model through curated high-quality data, textbooks, papers, code repositories, bake in capabilities before deployment. It works, but it is an admission of defeat. If models were true learners, we would not need to preload every skill manually. Reinforcement learning with verifiable rewards, RLVR for short. Instead of noisy human ratings, use objective verifiers. Did the code compile? Did the math check out? This lets models discover strategies no human taught them. But RLVR only works where verification is cheap, math, code, games. For most economic tasks, there is no programmatic verifier. You cannot write a script to check if an email was strategically sound. So short term, 3 to 5 years, moderately bearish. We are hitting diminishing returns on the static paradigm. The qualitative experience of using these models has not fundamentally shifted since GPT-4. Businesses are not adopting faster because reliability engineering costs more than labor savings. Long term, once continual learning is solved, explosively bullish. An AI can be dropped into a company, learn the ropes in a week, and be copied 1,000,000 times. The diffusion lag vanishes. I do not know if this takes 5 years or 15. The stability plasticity dilemma is hard, and I mean extremely hard. But the ceiling is real. Until models can learn on the job, they are capital, not labor. Very fancy search engines, useful but bounded. I think the transition from frozen artifact to adaptive agent will be the defining moment of this technology.